Hello, I'm Nobby Clark, welcome to my workshop. A very kind subscriber to my channel has sent me a gift. It's a box angle plate. It's a very weighty cast iron box plate. It's sort of hollow on the inside here, and it has three T-slots, and the slots round the outside I guess are for clamping it down onto the bed of the milling machine. The first thing I did was make a sort of bit of a rough and ready box to store it in, which I've lined with rust proofing paper. And the next job, to make some T-nuts for it. I looked through all the T-nuts rather I've already got. I had some for the bed of the milling machine, and a variety of different ones that came with the clamp down set that I have, but none of them would fit this. And I think the ones from the milling machine possibly could have been modified to fit, but obviously I want to keep those for the milling machine anyway, and they'll obviously be used to clamp this down anyway. So rather than buy some for it, I thought, well, we'd make a very, very nice project to make 4 of them. I found a suitable piece of steel which is not far off the required size. So the point of this video is to invite you to join me on the journey of making the T-nuts for it. So I hope you'll stick with me. I didn't film the complete machining of them. I just sort of filmed various bits and pieces along the way, and was also able to make good use of the DRO that I have on the milling machine to help me machine the metal down to size and find all the centres for drilling and tapping some 8mm threaded holes in the T-nuts. So hopefully you'll stick with me, and we'll see how we get on. this is ready for my next project. I'm making some T-nuts for a new angle block cube I have. I've already machined the metal down here to width, and now I've got to reduce it down in height. I'm not very far to go now. I don't think you can see the scribe mark here, but I've only got a couple of passes to make now to bring it down to size, and then I've got to cut the T-slot, the T-nut shape. I've marked out the T-slot dimensions, scribed them on the piece, and it's just cutting down to the line. Now, I won't show all of this, I'll bring you back when I'm nearly done. I've machined both of the steps on each side. This was made very, very easy now that I've got a DRO system on the milling machine. I was able to get the depth of the steps exactly the same on both sides. I'm going to machine the top down just slightly here, so that when this is used on the angle cube and this gets pulled upwards, this isn't going to ride above the height of the top of the cube. So I'm just going to machine it just a little bit off the top here. Well, that should do fine. So what I've got to do now is remove this and deburr it and test fit it. This is my box angle plate and my partially completed T-nut to go in it. And that goes in very nicely, and even when that gets raised up, it's still going to be below the surface of the top, so it's not going to interfere with any materials that are put on the top. It fits nicely in all the slots. So all I've got to do now is to cut this down into 4 pieces and drill and tap. I think I'm going to drill and tap it for 8mm because one of the clamping sets I've got is got 6 and 8mm threaded bar with it, so I think 8mm will be better on this particular one. So that's the next stage. I'm just going to machine the end of the workpiece square. I've already done this end, and this will make it easier for me to lay out the cut marks to divide this into the 4 pieces. I think that's got it. Just gonna have a look. Yep, that's fine. So that's the little operations there completed. So I've got a nice machined end on both ends. So now I can just measure and divide this up to the 4 pieces. They'll be approximately 1 inch long. So I think they'll be absolutely perfect. I have already cut the 4 pieces down, not to size yet, but I did this off camera. I didn't want you to watch me hacksawing up this piece of metal. It's not a pretty sight watching me do that at all. And then I machined one end of each piece so that they're square. And the thing now is to get them all to roughly the same size. I've done these two already, and what I did was I machined one after selecting the one of these which was fractionally smaller than the others, and putting them in the vise against my homemade mill stop. So those two pieces are already finished, and I've got two more bits to do to make sure I put it in the right way around. So that will go into the vise up to the stop, and then I can lock that in place. Sorry, I'm knocking the camera here. Just gonna try and sort of gently tap that down into position. I think I've almost so tighten the vise up a little bit more, and I'll just machine one more of these in front of camera. Obviously, once I'd done the first one, obviously I locked the X movement so that can't move at all, and this obviously will hold everything in exactly the right position for machining. There's a bit of chatter noise there. I think it's because it's a bigger cut than I guess I would normally take. I'm machining the end here now. With any luck, this will be the same size as the other two. Just loosen the vise up so I keep knocking the camera. That's the ones I've already machined. And well, slight difference, but as near as damn it, they're all the same size. It doesn't really matter too much about how long they are, but it's nice to try and get them as near to size as I possibly can. And so the final operation after I've deburred these will be to set them up in the mill and then drill and tap for an 8mm thread. So what I'm going to attempt to do is to set up the mill using the DRO to find the centre here to drill for the 8mm thread. I've used the vice stop again so that I can get the other pieces in exactly the same position, so I don't have to repeat this for each piece. I mean, obviously I want this to be as accurate as I can possibly get it. In the Y movement, I suppose in the X movement that wouldn't really matter if it was slightly out, but it'd be nice to get it absolutely right. So I'm going to try and set up the Y movement first. I've got an edge finder here which has an audible signal, and lights come on when it touches the edge of the material. Obviously you've got to be very, very delicate with this. The nice thing is that you don't have to have the mill rotating to use this. It can be done with the spindle in static position, but obviously you've got to be very, very careful to do it. So let's have a go and see how I get on. that's our signal, so now I can zero out the DRO. I'm going to wind that back just to do a double check on it, make sure I've got it right. Yeah, that's fine. You've obviously got to be very careful doing this, because this end is very, very delicate. It's not like the edge finders you use with the spindle moving, where it pushes the bottom part off to one side. So if you force this against the workpiece, obviously you damage the end here. So without moving this in the Z movement, I'm going to move it round to the other side, because I've only got a very small area here to work with, so I've got to be sort of very, very careful to get the ball in exactly the same position on both sides. So I'll wind that round. Now bring it round the other side, and we'll do the same procedure. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to take that back again, just bring it forward again and make sure I've got that right. Yep. So now I can zero out the Y and use the half function. Now I can raise the spindle up and bring that into 0, and I'll be in dead centre, hopefully. Overshot it very slightly there. There we are, it's in there. So that should now be dead centre. It certainly does look as if it is. I hope I've got that right. Now I've got to lock the Y movement, so that can't move. I've got to just, again, it's just a slight adjustment there. Right, that's locked in place. So now I can run this along and do the same thing again for the X movement. Just bring that down. Obviously being very, very careful how I do this. Obviously to get using the half function is not one of the functions on this where you've got to take into account the diameter of the ball, because obviously the diameter of the ball will be the same at either end, so that's obviously taken into account. So let's move that along now. Do the same thing again. Very gently does it. That's it, we're there. Now I can 0 the X and wind that back and just double check that. Yeah, that's absolutely fine, perfect. Now I'm going to do the same. You just have to raise that up and bring that across and bring it down the other side. Drop that down. There we are. And
Same thing again. E466, I'll take that back again, just double check that. E466, absolutely wrong. Raise that up. I've actually done that wrong, so I'll bring that down that side. We'll do that side instead. Diora's is something very, very new to me, so I'm obviously going to make a few mistakes to start with. Right, okay. Yep, that's fine. Let's raise that over. Bring them down again. Take that in again. Yep, exactly right. So I'll raise that up and zero that out. That should bring me in the dead centre. So what I've got to do now is take or lock the X movement as well, so nothing can move, and then I'll be okay now to drill out the 4 parts. I'll bring you back when I've installed the drill chuck, and we'll have a look with a centre drill in and see how close it looks to the centre. I've already done one just to make sure everything was fine, bit of rehearsal, and that looks wonderful. It to me looks absolutely dead centre. So let's pop another piece in, up against the vice stop. Put that in. Down a bit. Almost I can't move anything to get a real good swing on the hammer, but I'm sure that's going to be alright. Nice up, nice and tight. And I did check beforehand that I've got enough clearance between the 2 parallels as well. So first we'll pop a centre drill in. Try and do this without putting my hands right in front of the camera. Now what I did on the first one is I brought the centre drill down and just made a tiny little mark on the surface here, and I literally just measured it with an accurate ruler or scale, And as far as I can make out, that's in the dead centre of the piece. So let's put a centre drill in. Some cutting oil on, and .8mm threads are not something that I cut very often. So this is a brand new 6.8mm drill, so it should cut through this easily. I'm cutting oil. There. Remove the drill. And I'm going to use the drill chuck to start the tap off. But what I'll do first is just countersink this slightly, give hopefully a slightly better lead in for the tap. Hopefully that'll help. Make sure I pick the right tap up. There we go. I'll use some of this nice gloopy cutting paste. Really good stuff, because unlike using cutting oil, most of it runs off before you even get the tap into the job. At least this stays on the tap while you're trying to do it. Give that a bit of a start. Hopefully that will do. Sorry, I've got my hands in front of the camera again. Tap wrench on. that's all okay. There we go. And we'll follow that up with plug tap to clear the thread nicely. Put a bit more glue on this one as well. Oops. All thumbs at the moment. Here we go. Yep. And that's it. Sweep out the way first, and there we are. Give them a bit of a wipe over. Obviously I'll deburr it thoroughly and deburr the bottom as well, but that looks fine. I did have it, oh, here it is, I did have a screw just to try that. Yeah, that's going to be fine. Might get stuck on the bottom because there's probably a bit of a burr there, but yeah, it's going to stick on the bottom. I need to, oh no, there's no, to clear the burrs off there, but that goes through fine. Obviously not the stud I'm going to be using on the angle cube, but the studs that came with my cold down kit are nothing special. They're just, I imagine, bits of studding cut to length, nothing sort of fancy about them at all. So we've got 2 done, 2 more to go. I'm not going to do any more in front of the camera. I'll just do those other in my own time, and when I've cleaned them up and deburred them all, we'll have a look at them and make sure they fit onto the angle block okay. Well, that's the job basically completed now. All the T-nuts are basically finished. Still got I think a little bit of deburring to do on them, and what I might do later on is cold blue them as well to protect the surface of the metal. But in the meantime, I can just lightly oil them, you know, while they're stored with the box angle plate. But they all fit nicely into the slots. It's quite a nice fit, really. So all ready to go, ready for the first job I find for the angle plate. I did make this rather sort of rough and ready wooden box to store it in, and I've lined it with sort of rust proofing paper with a piece to go over the top as well, and then I can store the T-nuts inside the box with the plate, because these
obviously are made exclusively for this. I've got a variety of other T-nuts in the workshop for the Myford lathe for my milling machine, but none of those fitted this. And with the hold down sets I've got, that came with some T-nuts, but again none of those fitted this. So I guess there must be lots of different sizes of T-nuts available. So there we are. That sort of job, basically completed now. Just to say, thank you for joining me. Rather a long video this one, but I sort of hope you enjoy it and see the various problems I had to sort of get around while I was machining the parts. But certainly having a DRO on my milling machine now has aided me so much in making these, enabling me to make the steps here perfectly equal on both sides, and to find the centre for the 8mm screw thread as well. It makes the job so much simpler. Thank you again to everyone who's kindly subscribed to my channel, and those that have sent me sort of nice comments and helpful tips and advice. Anyway, thank you very much, and I'll have another video for you very, very soon. Bye bye for now.